Welcome to Opera Fan Dallas. This episode is using the Académie de Royal Paris 2008 production of Orpheus and Eurydice by W.C. Gluck, produced by BelAirClassique. See the description for details and links to the Dallas Opera, YouTube versions, and BelAirClassique's website. I have seen several different productions of Orpheus and Eurydice, some of which were very abstract and minimalist, with a female singing the lead of Orpheus, which is how the part was written by W.C. Gluck. However, I have found them to be dull and hard to follow. This production is set in modern times, and the story is very different from the classical production, and I will point out the differences as we go along. Act 1. This version starts with action beginning with the overture, where we see Orpheus and Eurydice's wedding celebration. Then Eurydice dies in a car accident on her wedding day. When the overture ends, we are at the cemetery, which is where the classical version begins. Orpheus's quest for his beloved is a dream sequence that begins and ends at the cemetery. Amore, Cupid, is the funeral director in this version, and he guides Orpheus to Hades. The only condition is that he does not look at her face until they are back on Earth. The act ends with Orpheus passing out and then being driven by Amore to the underworld. 6. Act 2. Orpheus arrives in a hearse at the gates of hell. The Furies, goddesses of vengeance, refuse to let him enter the underworld, and they block his way. Orpheus is the Billy Joel of his day, and he sings with such passion that the Furies can't resist the piano man, and they let him in. Amore and Orpheus open the gates of Hades, and Amore leads him in. The place is really creepy. Lots of smoke and bodies hanging from the ceiling. I have worked as an extra in the opera, and I would not have wanted their part. They find Eurydice in a 40-foot-long wedding dress hanging from the ceiling. They get her down, and she is revived, and they start their way back. Act 3. On the way out of Hades, Eurydice is delighted to be returning to Earth. Orpheus remembers the conditions imposed by Amore in Act 1. He must not look at her face, and he does not explain anything to her, and he turns her face away anytime she tries to get him to look at her. She does not understand his actions and reproaches him, but he must suffer in silence. Eurydice takes this as a sign that he no longer loves her and refuses to continue. She concludes death would be preferable than going back to Earth if he does not love her. I guess going to hell and back was not enough of a sign of his love for her. She sings of her grief that Orpheus supposedly is unfaithful. Unable to take it anymore, Orpheus looks at her, and Eurydice dies again. Orpheus sings of his grief. In this version, Orpheus now awakes from his dream, and he is now back at the cemetery. He decides that he would rather kill himself to be with Eurydice in Hades. In the classical version, Amore stops him, and as a reward for Orpheus' continual love, Amore returns Eurydice to life. A happy ending! What kind of a tragedy is this? But in this version, Orpheus dies, and he and Eurydice are both put into the same coffin, and they are united in death. a much better ending for the opera. And curtain. Thank you for watching. Click on the circle on the side of the screen to subscribe.